is the place to do it. Hey, John Bartell here. You know, California has 9 national parks. That's more national parks than any other state in the country. You know what? I've been lucky enough to visit all of them. From the scorching deserts of Death Valley to the misty forests of the redwoods, each park has a very different natural wonder. Now, seeing all of them in one road trip is pretty difficult, but if you're up for it, I've got the perfect route to get you started. Let's kick things off in the northernmost park, Redwood National Park in Humboldt County. Buckle up, because this one's a fun one. California's Humboldt County coast. There's a reason they call it the Avenue of the Giants. The tallest living organisms in the world grow here.
It's a very special thing looking at an ancient sequoia to be able to interpret it and ponder its wisdom being thousands and thousands of years old.
The 300-foot tall trees dominate the sky at Redwood National and State Park. But on the forest floor, fern is king.
Protected from the sun, tons of moisture, tons of nutrients. People can't walk on them. You could find no better place to be a delicate fern.
Welcome to Fern Canyon, a natural wonder that's found nowhere else in the world. This is like a moss sponge kind of back here.
You betcha, the entire wall is alive.
Justin Legge is an educational tour guide with Redwood Adventures. And if you can't tell, he's super passionate about the park and Fern Canyon.
Biologically, though, these ferns in the canyon go back hundreds of millions of years.
At least a dozen different fern species cling to the wall of the canyon, feeding off decaying matter from the forest to create a one-of-a-kind vertical wetland. How did it end up like this?
What happened, geology, the coastal plate of California kind of jutted under and shoved up the ocean plate.
The unique geology not only attracted ferns, but also people. First came gold miners in the late 1800s. Then, in the late 1990s, it attracted Steven Spielberg. You may remember this scene from Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World.
And he ends up falling from the redwood forest down into Fern Canyon. The little dinosaurs start to munch on him and attack him. He jumps over that log where you see the stream coming under, and his blood flows through Home Creek after they munch him down.
Thankfully, you won't find any dinosaurs in Fern Canyon anymore, but it's not uncommon to come across Roosevelt elk or the lonely banana slug enjoying the waters in Home Creek.
Redwood National and State Parks and places like Fern Canyon always force us to remember that us humans are just a part of this universe.
Fern Canyon is a picturesque place. It's also a protected place worth visiting and sharing with others.
Unfortunately, the Instagram pictures just never do justice.
From the rainforests of the redwoods, head southeast to Lassen Volcanic National Park, home to some of the hottest, most bubbling spots in California. Bump as hell. This geothermal wonder is packed with boiling acid pits and bubbling mud pots. But a fair warning, stay on the trail. One wrong step, and you might find yourself in some serious hot water. Few places in California are as volcanically active as Lassen National Park.
Lassen Peak erupted between 1914 and 1917.
It was in part because of these images that President Roosevelt designated Mount Lassen as a national park, and curious adventurers traveled great distances to see this. It's known as Bump as Hell.
So if folks wanted to jump in here, not only would you get burned by the heat, but you would get burned by the chemicals.
Bump as Hell got its name decades before Mount Lassen's eruption. The acid waters here were made popular by an unfortunate tour guide.
Kendall Van Hook Bumpus was leading folks out here and ended up punching through one of the hydrothermal soils and burned his leg up pretty bad.
You don't have to worry about stepping into a boiling acid pit these days. A newly constructed walking trail and boardwalk allows visitors to get within safe distance of Bump as Hell. But safety is a relative thing. Remember, Mount Lassen is still an active volcano.
We've had surveys, USGS comes out and works with us, but we don't know for how long it'll be safe to stand here. This is a very dynamic area.
To escape the stinky sulfur steam of Bumpus Hell, head southeast to the rugged California coast to visit Point Reyes National Park. Here you can climb the iconic Point Reyes Lighthouse and see dramatic cliffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean. On a sunny day, life is good at Point Reyes National Seashore, and all along Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, it's easy to see elk, elephant seals, and seabirds. But life is not always good here, especially along the rocky headlands.
The wind speeds can reach in the hundreds. 133 miles an hour is our highest record. Just 2 weeks ago, we reached 78 miles an hour.
Point Reyes is one of the foggiest and windiest places in the whole state, and to keep ships along the Bay Area from running aground, it's the job of the Point Reyes Lighthouse to warn them, or at least try.
There's over 70 known wrecks in this area.
When the weather is nice like it is today, interpretive park ranger Fiona O'Kelly opens up the lighthouse for tourists to see, but first, they must travel down a gauntlet of stairs. How many steps are we talking?
313 stairs down.
Have you counted them yourself?
I have, many times.
The Point Reyes Lighthouse was built in 1870, and up until 1975, it was manned by a real lighthouse keeper. And yes, they had to travel up and down these steps multiple times a day. I'm really not looking forward to going back up.
Welcome to the historic Point Reyes Lighthouse.
Okay.
So we're gonna come on in and check out the clockwork.
Back in 2019, the lighthouse underwent a massive multi-million-dollar renovation, which includes structural work and historical preservation. Today, the first thing you'll notice inside the lighthouse is the large brass gears below the light.
It's basically like a large wind-up grandfather clock. You've got a clockwork mechanism that turns this whole lens on gears, and this giant first order Fresnel lens sends beams of light out to the horizon 24 miles.
That Fresnel lens that Fiona is talking about is essentially a bunch of magnifying glasses that illuminate the light. And back in 1870, that light was not powered by electricity.
Refined lard lamp. Yes, as in pig.
The pig fat candle was not the only crude lighthouse technology back then. Wait till you hear how the foghorn was powered.
So they had to shovel 150 pounds of coal an hour to make the pressure for the steam whistles to go every 30 seconds as long as it was foggy. So there always had to be someone in there shoveling to keep that pressure up to make the horns go.
In 1939, the pig fat candle was replaced with an electric light bulb, and soon after that, the horns were powered by diesel air compressors. Today, however, this solar-powered blinking light and an electric horn does all the work. The current light, a little less impressive.
A little less impressive, a little less romantic.
Automated or not, lighthouses still play an important part in maritime navigation, and Point Reyes National Seashore plays an important part in protecting and repopulating the wildlife in this area, like the common murres.
The common murres have made an incredible comeback story. They used to be harvested, their eggs used to be harvested for eating. During the gold rush especially, chicken eggs were extremely expensive.
And as you make your way back up the lighthouse steps, you can take a break at one of the whale watching viewpoints that overlook the protected waters.
Will you actually see some whales?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. This is the time of year. We've got the southbound migration of the grays going by in the middle of January, but we still have the mothers and calves going by April into May.
Once you've made your way down the Point Reyes Lighthouse, drive past San Francisco to Pinnacles National Park, one of California's hidden gems. This park is famous for its towering rock formations and massive talus caves, where you'll be exploring some unique underground tunnels. This is Pinnacles National Park, a vast graveyard filled with the remains of ancient volcanoes. The dramatic rock spires that pierce out of the Gabilan Mountains are known as pinnacles, a mix of rock that park ranger Beth Hudick says were victims of the elements.
The rocks look the way they do, not because they're volcanic, but because after the volcanic layers were laid down, they were eroded away.
The pinnacles became a national monument in 1908, then later a national park, which helped protect a number of endangered species, including the California condor.
We came very, very close to losing them forever. In the 1980s, 1982, there were only 22 birds left in the entire world in the wild population.
Intense recovery efforts and captive breeding have slowly brought back the population.
They're one of the largest land birds in North America, so they have a wingspan of 9.5 feet. Absolutely incredible to see close up.
Today, Pinnacles National Park protects over 26,000 acres. It's an ever-changing landscape that won't be around forever.
This erosion is still going on, and so it's going to eventually erode away all those pinnacles. So the fact that we happen to be here at the same time that the pinnacles are here is pretty awesome.
Hey, John Bartell here. We've reached the midpoint in our journey of visiting all 9 national parks in California. Now, we're gonna head east of Pinnacles National Park, all the way over to see the breathtaking views at Yosemite National Park. This is what the entrance to Yosemite National Park looks like today. Multiple lane toll booths allowing hundreds of cars to move through daily, but that wasn't always the case. Cars actually fit through this thing?
Cars, initially it was horse carriages, but yes, cars, there's plenty of pictures of cars going through here.
Park interpreter Andrew Corville says before it was a national park, there were multiple private toll roads into Yosemite. To attract tourists to their toll road, private landowners like the ones at Big Oak Flat cut picture-worthy tunnels through this dead sequoia.
You can see the holes up at the top where their pipe augers were drilled in, and that allowed them to open up to get saws in to tunnel out this tree.
The tunnel tree is located in the Tuolumne Grove, which is one of just 75 groves of sequoia trees in California. Its cousin, the redwood tree, is the tallest in the world, but the sequoias are the largest trees in the world by mass. Large enough for, well, a car to drive through. Has anyone ever gotten stuck in here?
Yes, I actually read a story about an RV that was going through here that got stuck.
Tunnel trees became very popular. Tuolumne Grove's tunnel tree was cut through a dead sequoia in 1878, earning it the nickname Dead Giant Tunnel Tree. But other entrances into Yosemite National Park started cutting into live trees. Is boring holes in redwood trees, is that good for the tree?
It is not good for, as you would imagine, not particularly good for trees.
The only living tunnel tree in the park is at the Mariposa Grove, and it's still standing today, but the tunnel tree at the Wawona entrance, it fell down in 1968 due to a weak structure and a heavy windstorm. The park eventually acquired all private entrances, but unfortunately in 1993 stopped allowing cars to drive through the tunnel trees.
Well, in 1993, the road was in disrepair. There were a lot of down trees and hazard trees, and so they closed the road and never reopened it.
The good news is you can still walk through the tunnel trees. Just a warning though, the trail's about 2 miles up and down a steep hill. Well, if you thought Yosemite had some big trees, wait till you step into Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, home to some of the largest trees on Earth. These giant sequoias are so massive, they have tunnels carved through them. And as a special treat, we're heading underground. Drive east of Visalia into the mountains of Tulare County, and everything starts to get really big. For example, this is Mount Whitney, the tallest peak in California. And this is Morrow Rock, a land-consuming granite dome. And this is the Giant Forest, home to 5 of the world's largest trees. To give you guys a little perspective, these tree trunks get up to about 40 feet wide, and the tree gets about 300 feet tall. That's big, if you can't tell. This is Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park. It's so big and so rugged that you can't even drive most of it. 95% of the park is designated wilderness, and giant trees dominate the landscape. The trees here are so big that sometimes it's easier to drive through them than around them.
We're looking at thousands of years old when we look at these trees right here.
These are sequoia trees, not to be confused with the California redwood.
So behind us we have the sequoias. Sequoias grow in the Sierra Nevada mountains, so we're far from the coast. Redwoods grow on the coast.
Rebecca Jones is a naturalist with Sequoia Parks Conservancy, and it's her job to point out the small and hidden wonders in this giant park.
So there's a sequoia seed.
Whoa, that's it. That's gonna... Look what you could grow up and you could be this. When you get older, you could be this. Sequoia National Park is full of hidden gems, literally.
Do you want to open the gate?
What? Look at that.
Yeah.
Below the giant sequoias and the towering mountains is something else that's really big.
Most of the mountains are granite, but what we're standing inside of right now is a giant boulder of marble. Marble.
This is Crystal Cave, a 1.4 million year old cave that's getting bigger.
What I have down here is the river that's actually carving out Crystal Cave. So you can see that trench that it's made and that marble rock that's polished underneath it. And that's carving out our cave about an inch every 500 years.
Crystal Cave is 3.4 miles long, and it's filled with fragile stalactites and stalagmites. The minerals that make up the cave features are not rare, but that's a good thing for both the cave and the giant sequoias above.
Not all these areas were protected, and if we had found something that had a lot of gold or silver in it, it would have been much harder to protect this place and make it a national park.
Everything in Sequoia National Park is big, and as long as humans continue to make small impacts, this place will only get bigger. Buckle up, because we're heading over the Sierra to the deserts of Death Valley National Park, where you'll be surprised to see the aquatic life that lives in California's hottest desert. These are pupfish, Death Valley's largest aquatic vertebrates, and the best place to see them is right here in the balmy waters of Salt Creek. They're a little disappointingly small. I was expecting bigger.
Well, you know, for the desert and a stream in the desert, you know, they're huge.
Kevin Wilson is an aquatic ecologist with the National Park Service, a profession you may also not expect to be out here in the desert, but he says he's actually pretty busy.
It's amazing. There's over 800 springs in Death Valley itself.
Measuring in at a whopping 1 to 2 inches, the pupfish is not something you'll see at your local fish market, but what they lack in size, they make up for in hardcore resilience.
These fish can live in extreme environments. They live actually in water that can be saltier than the ocean.
Not impressed? Well, wait till you hear how hot the water gets.
60 degrees up to water that's up to 110.
Pupfish survive in fragile ecosystems, eating small bugs and algae. Despite their miserable living conditions, they're actually happy fish, and scientists name them accordingly.
They observed their behavior and they kind of acted like puppies. So they actually, that stuck, they're called pupfish.
All right, we've about wrapped up our journey to see all 9 of California's national parks. Now we're gonna head east of Death Valley and make our way to the California coast. But first, we're gonna stop off at Joshua Tree National Park to check out the historic Keys Ranch. This old ranch is a time capsule tucked in the heart of the park. With very few exceptions, the Joshua Tree only lives in the Mojave Desert. The twisted, spiky plant thrives in the hellish temperatures, high elevation, and low precipitation of this area. The prickly oddity is by far the main attraction at Joshua Tree National Park. But there is one area of the park that few people get to see. An area that, well, is not as pristine.
He has kind of what you could call a junk pile, but you know, one man's junk is another man's treasure.
This is the Keys Ranch, homestead of desert entrepreneur and junk collector Bill Keys.
You know, one of the things that brought Bill out here was gold mining.
All over Joshua Tree National Park is granite quartzite monzonite, a geological feature that often contains gold. But the only way to extract it is with this machine, which Bill owned.
This is a single stamp gold mill. This was an apparatus that was used to process ore and extract the gold out of the ore.
Bill was an entrepreneur. He made most of his money processing gold ore for other miners. He also got into the business of scavenging and reselling discarded items. Bill and his wife are probably a lot like the Joshua Tree. They had to be tough.
I think that's a fair assessment. They were drought tolerant, they were tough.
All right, we've reached the final stop on our journey through all 9 California national parks, and this one requires a boat ride to get there. Just off the dolphin-infested waters of Ventura County, you'll find the beautiful Channel Islands National Park. Watch out for those island foxes. Just 18 miles off the Ventura coast, far from the freeways of Southern California, a pod of dolphins encompass a hidden world. This is Channel Islands National Park, a remote, lonely, and protected marine sanctuary where respectful travelers can explore.
Make sure to drink water. Listen to Mother Catherine.
It would be difficult to visit all 5 islands in one trip, but if you want to experience the largest and most diverse of them all, you may want to take a tour of Santa Cruz Island with 20-year veteran park docent Catherine French.
They are made by volcanic activity, but we have no volcanoes that are going to erupt out here.
A mountainous island formed on top of a massive fault line. Santa Cruz Island was actually never part of mainland California. Its rugged terrain isolated nearly 60 different plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth. And that also includes the sneaky and fearless Santa Cruz Island fox. That fox has absolutely no manners.
People are always amazed how the foxes are so calm around the humans because they were raised around humans. Those humans just happen to be native peoples.
Those native people were the Chumash tribe, and they actually lived on the island for more than 13,000 years. That is, until Spanish explorers exposed them to disease.
There was a big measles outbreak.
Surviving members of the Chumash tribe were relocated to mainland California, and shortly after, ranchers and sheep herders moved on to the island.
The longest ranching period was from 1848 to 1998.
The National Park Service took over Channel Islands and began an extensive rehabilitation and protection effort. Today, the island is showing great signs of recovery. Even the surrounding water was protected, helping spawn a great kelp forest. Well, congratulations, you've seen all of California's national parks. Now, if you don't want the journey to end, I've got a bonus stop for you. Every spring in San Luis Obispo County, the hills at Carrizo Plain National Monument explode with color. As hard as we tried, our cameras could not capture the true beauty of this place. To really experience the sights, the sounds, and the smells of the super bloom at Carrizo Plain National Monument, you have to visit in person. That said, I'm gonna do my best to show you around this remote and not so developed national monument. You're definitely gonna want a high clearance vehicle here. Yikes. Carrizo Plain National Monument is a 200,000 plus acre protected grassland and one of the largest in the state. To the east of its boundary is a sea of Kern County oil fields, and to the west are the crowded coastal towns of San Luis Obispo County. But to the center of the National Monument is a whole lot of nothing.
The monument is mostly dirt roads. There's a little bit of paving as you come in, and then once you get down another mile or so, all the roads are dirt.
Carrizo Plain is the kind of place you go to get away from it all, to smell the flowers. And Jonna Hurl with the Bureau of Land Management can pretty much name them all.
The hillside daisies, which is the tall yellow one, they kind of follow the sun, and then we have the tidy tips, and this is a phacelia.
The reason that these flowers grow so well in this area is because of its remoteness. Long before it was designated a national monument, Carrizo Plain was a sacred place for Native Americans. Images on this outcropping, known as Painted Rock, date back 3,000 to 4,000 years.
Painted Rock is an area that was used by the Chumash and other tribes that use this area, and it has pictographs in the inside.
Painted Rock is off limits most of the week to preserve the pictographs and also to protect the wildlife, like the burrowing owls and the endangered kangaroo rat who dug this hole. It's a big hole.
Yeah, they're about 100 to 120 grams.
Okay. Do you think he's sleeping right now, or are we probably waking him up, or?
Yeah, they're sleeping. They're nocturnal, so they come out at nighttime, and yeah, they'll be hopping around up here on the surface.
In the late 1800s, the land here was taken over by dryland farmers who grew crops on the dry soil and used giant harvesters to work the fields. A successful crop was dependent on the rain, and that's tough because there's little to no groundwater under the arid soil.
It was all based on the rainfall. So if you got a good crop, a good rainfall, you get a good crop, and then a lot of times you wouldn't. So it was kind of boom or bust.
The little bit of water that does flow into the monument can be found at Soda Lake, but it's not exactly drinkable. Tastes a little salty.
There you go.
And under the hot summer sun, it doesn't last long.
The Soda Lake is an internal basin. A lot of the salts and everything leach into this lake. When it evaporates, the water evaporates, it leaves behind this sodium.
As farming became less profitable in the area, much of the land was sold to conservationists and the federal government. President Clinton designated Carrizo Plain as a national monument at the end of his term in 2001. And then, the wildflowers and native plants began taking over again. Dozens of species, or about, I don't know?
Hundreds.
Hundreds of different species.
Yes, yes.
As the sun rises over the valley floor, flowers follow its rays. First to glitter bright with color are the low-lying flowers. And then as soon as noon hits, the hills and the mountains come alive.
I'll come to work in the morning and I'll not notice the flowers, and then when I turn around, come back on a road, it'll be just vibrant.
Those mountains are what isolate Carrizo Plain. Formed by tremors and quakes, the mountains here are a result of the San Andreas Fault that runs right through the monument.
It moves like 2 inches a year, but we get major earthquake events every 200 to 250 years.
Wildflower season is short, only lasting a few months during the spring. And as I said before, the pictures here don't do this place justice. You really have to experience it for yourself. Well, thanks for watching Bartell's Backroads and following me along as we check out California's national parks. I hope it's inspired you to check out one for yourself. I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the Backroads.